Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another session conducted by the Destination Knowledge Center. Today, we have Chef Rajeev Goyal with us, who is a fine connoisseur and an excellent guide of the multifaceted and delightful Indian cuisine. He has done extensive research in Indian spices and indigenous Indian recipes over the years. During his own travels, he has visited countries all over major continents like Africa, Europe, South America, and North America. His personal experiences with the food served in most of the so-called Indian restaurants in these countries prompted him to showcase the real Indian food to the international audience, who had been served subpar imitations till now. So today, Rajiv is going to share a few interesting stories about how specific foods have traveled from one place to another in India and eventually settled down well in the final destination. So over to you, Rajiv.
Hi, very warm welcome to everyone, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about my country, my food, and I hope everybody keeping themselves safe and sound and eating well in this time. So, and I'm sure everybody had a good meal just before this session, because this session is going to make you hungry, and we're going to talk about, of course, a lot of food. And I would like to start talking about my country, my food, or I want to begin this slide with talking about the country. So what is India, and what do we understand as a country, India? Or what is the current scenario of Indian food? So before 1947, it was 584 princely states, and there were 584 different food culture, I can easily say that. And after that, as we speak now, we are 28 states and 8 union territories. So it is very easy and quick to understand that our food culture is widely spread. There is a lot of variation. We do not make, even we have a same ingredient, we do not make it same way in all across country. So that's what makes it very interesting way to explore the country and understand that how much variety one can experience by the same ingredient in different regions. So today's session, let's start talking. Of course, I'm going to talk about me first since I got an opportunity. So I've been running few companies in India, which is purely dealing in culinary tourism. It's among one of the first companies in India who started food walk concepts in India. Then beside that, I'm also working as a consultant for many institutes which are into tourism and hospitality. So because at the same time, I'm making sure that if we are promoting the subject as a culinary tourism, there should be enough working force across. So if industry gets set up, so there should be a people who knows what we are doing. So luckily it has been welcomed very well. So I'm not going to bore you long with my introduction here. Let's talk about the food. So food, what you see today is a small map of India in which I have highlighted the stories which I'm going to talk about. Though possibly this map could have been very densely marked with a lot of different food cultures, but since there is little apprehension of time, so I restrict myself to a limited stories and talk about these highlighted subjects only today. Hopefully, we will witness each other soon, and I would love to talk about those with you in person as well. So prominently, you can see we are talking about the culture which came from Kabul to Delhi or Punjab, or we are talking about the world minority of Zoroastrian, which are also known as Parsi, those who landed and take a refuge in the port of Gujarat, or we're going to talk about Odisha tribal food, which is a basic, I must say that very important right now in this current pandemic, because there is a lot of learning from that particular zone about the food. Then we're going to share the amazing story of a food travel from Maharashtra to Sambar and gain popularity and geotag in Maharashtra, in Tamil Nadu or South India, you can say. Then we're going to talk about the introduction of Kerela and Biryani, what is the connection between Kerala and Biryani and India. So I began my slide talking about the first story, where I would like to talk about the GT Road, which is also known as Grand Trunk Road. It's around, if you really go by the history and numbers, could say 2,500-year-old, almost similar 100 kilometers, 2,500 kilometers. But the first chapter is about Delhi. So I just want to highlight here the Delhi spice market. That's why it exists. On the screen, you can see the India map, which is marked as yellow. That is a green. That's a very roughly drawn sketch of a track that where it goes from intersecting different states of India, and the trade happened on that. So this was a major route starting from Kabul to Chittagong, which is now Bangladesh. And there was a lot of food interaction happening in this whole trade route. I hope you can see the slide right now, which is talking about Delhi and its food culture. And in this, I have included the food which we had and which we got it here now. And this also shows or talk about the current food scene of Delhi. So I'm going to start with the youngest food member here in Delhi right now, is momos. With every nook and corner of Delhi, you will see. And trust me, I think if I have to really name one dish which have seen so many different varieties in a very short period of time, I would say that is momos. Dumplings, and dim sums, or whatever you call it, but it is momos particularly. And this dish has gone through so many transformations, including going to tandooris, even having some gravies on top, deep frying, and so on. So it has taken many, many folds in its original character. That is must try in Delhi when you are. And though it is not from natively Delhi, we call it, it's come from northeast part of India, but I think no other dish could be called as so much Delhi than momos now, right now. Then other thing is tandoori chicken, which roots goes back to Uzbek, another point where they started cooking in pit, but it conceived its name as tandoori chicken in Delhi by a very renowned chef from Old Delhi, who started a very renowned restaurant right now, and also introduced a couple of more dishes. But this pattern of marinating with spices and cooking under pit was started by him in Delhi. Kadhai paneer. Kadhai paneer particularly, I said I wanted to keep it vegetarian. But the culture of cooking in a kadhai, a thin wok over the charcoals with a roughly chopped vegetables, and also including tomatoes, because if you really go back in the history of India, you don't find much dishes include tomatoes. So, but it was a part of trade route. So it's a very young, but enough old to call it old dish, kadhai, where they were using rough tomatoes, onions, and meat. And then it got its vegetarian version in India, which is paneer. Paneer is a cottage cheese, by the way, guys. Cottage cheese, you can say. That is what we compare when we talk in India about vegetarians and non-vegetarians. So when you say non-vegetarian eat meats and vegetarian eats paneer for their protein intake. Then jalebi, I guess most of the people are familiar with jalebi. It's one of the iconic dessert in India. And the next one that I would like to talk about is a dal makhani, a lentil, a black shell lentil, which is cooked overnight in tandoor with n number of spices in it. And its consistency is very much to be appreciated, or to be called it as a dal makhani. That is the benchmark of dal makhani, the consistency, and it takes a real good skill to make a good dal makhani. So, and if we go by a survey recently, I read that it is one of the most ordered dish in North India restaurant. So among the category of all the menu, it is one of the highly or most ordered dish as a dal makhani. But anyway, I'm in love with this design, and I'm able to express my feeling as a Delhi person myself, this heartbeat. So maybe, I don't know about the world or other cities or states, But Delhi people really, every heartbeat speaks about some dish or the other. So I have put it here: biryani, chaat, kachori, chole bhature, nihari, kulfi. So Delhi people, it's very, very different or difficult for Delhi people to live without their food. So I try to showcase here our heartbeat in model of food. So if we geographically say, that's where we point ourselves here in the center. If we hypothetically considered our country as a human, so Delhi is exactly place where the human heart is, and also witnessed a lot of connections between different cultures. But very prominently, when we talk about tourism, we cannot ignore talking about the city Agra, which is a city of Taj. So I thought that today's session would be interesting to talk about some connection between our cities. And this is a very quick map to understand. Do not scale this map as a statutory warning. It is just a rough design to understand. And there's a couple, you can see the Mughal on the horse coming to Delhi, towards Delhi. That is what in actual history, what, how, and the culture we have witnessed here in Delhi. I rather say Delhi. So that if I ever get, or if I'm in a position to rename it, I would name it Delhi. That's how we write in Hindi. And somehow we got a tag of Delhi, and I'm not sure completely how it got in, but we still write in Hindi, our language, Delhi. So I'll be calling it Delhi throughout. So Delhi is known for many dishes, and Delhi has its very unique culture of eating. We have our own spice. You can say, when I say spice, I mean very, very own spice palettes we have within Delhi. No matter dish where it's coming from, Delhi will give its own notes and touch to that dish and make it little Delhi palette. It happened with many dishes earlier, but today, as we say, we are talking about the historical, and we spoke about Agra. So I would like to talk about the two particular dishes in this picture. You can see one is chaat and other is nihari. So these two dishes prominently came at the time of the Mughals, or conceived at the time of Mughals, because Mughal ran out of water in that region, Agra, while constructing that beautiful city. And in the rush, they moved towards Delhi, just observing there is a water around it. We share the same river, Yamuna, from Agra. So by the time they reached Delhi and they set up everything, so one of the doctor, or you can say, I am saying a doctor, at that time, a kind of doctor, observed the water is not, because the moment they came to Delhi, the whole force were suffering with either some kind of stomach or some kind of cold, cough. So the doctors researched and found there is something wrong with the Delhi water, which was coming from the Yamuna. But you can't move the city now. It's expensive and tedious job. So the emperor asked that what could be done for resolve of it. So the solution came in as let's create a special blend of spices which will make sure the toxin from the river should not impact the human health. And the concoction came as chaat masala. Just to clarify, when we say masala, we mean a blend. It is not one kind or particular one. Any moment you blend 2 to 3 spices together can easily be called as masala. So in this case, they created a chaat masala. Chaat means lick, basically. It was so lickable, you can say. It is still now that it produces enough saliva in your mouth, which is good to control any kind of bacterial or dilute any kind of bacteria. But anyway, the chaat masala was a combination of salt, chili, and sour element, which we were using here in that time, mango powder. It is again a big story to learn about that, but still quick note, green mango, sun-dried, we sun-dry the pulp and then powder it. So they were mixing sun-dried mango powder, salt, and chili. These three becomes a chaat masala in an equal proportion. This was handling the toxic part, but again, the spice itself was causing a lot of problems since if you go by the roots of Mughals, they were never ever used to of such kind of high level of spices. To control that, they added in that concoction extra fat. Fat means they were deep frying the things, they were adding extra butter to it or ghee to it to control, or animal fat, though, as a matter of fact, animal fat to control that spice in the body. So for a vegetarian section, a big vegetarian section, they invented chaat. And for a non-vegetarian section, or you can say the force or the army, they created a dish which is called nihari. Nihar means early morning. Nihari, a dish which you eat very early morning. Now what you see nihari, or you will witness nihari, is in the shape of meat chunks and a sauce. What I learned from my experience and my research, that back then it was only one stew where they cook it overnight on the dinner leftover fire, which breaks the meat protein and come out as a very thick soup, and that soup was being consumed by itself. So what you see right now is a gravy and a meat, but back then what I got to know is a very thick soup with a very lot of spices in it, and that was helping the soldiers to survive and also digest that. Then when we talk about Delhi, I'm moving to the next story now. When we talk about Delhi, we cannot avoid talking about the very famous butter chicken. The Kundal Dal Jaggi, the chef who invented this chicken dish accidentally, in which he found that there is some leftover tandoori chicken, which cannot be re-grilled because they will lose their moisture, and they already lost the moisture. So what to do with them? Because it was not that great to eat the leftovers, or you can say already grilled chicken. So he ended up adding that into a tomato gravy, which he found suddenly gained the spice level, because tandoori chicken was having spices and the gravy itself having spices. Two became too spicy. So to control that fire, he just added some butter and cream. And rest is a history that we enjoy now in shape of butter chicken. Butter chicken was never sweet, which I encountered most of the time. It was more tangy and spicy. So when I say spicy, spicy means tolerable spicy with the balanced fat of butter and cream in it. But most of the time I end up witnessing the butter chicken on a sweet note, which could be called as a good version, but I won't say that authentic butter chicken. Second culture I would like to highlight here, I mentioned here chicken patty. Most of the people who are looking at, if you are Indian, you can instantly relate what is patty is. But for the global audience, I would say puff. It's a chicken puff. This is what we got when the British culture was flourishing in India. And this is one of the amazing food that we got from the British influence. So I'm highlighting one bakery here, which is in existence from 1926 in the heart of Delhi, Connaught Place. And since then, they haven't changed or played much with the recipes. So what you get here is an amazing flavors. Wenger's was the name, started by a Swiss national. And in this past 10 years, where I have taken a lot of food tours in their bakery, most of the time, at least people from the Germany, people from the Switzerland, people from the France could really relate with the flavors that, and some of them also said that they're better. Even from the England, they said this was better than what we get back home, where we cannot really claim it as Indian, but it is very much part of our culture now. We all have amazing memories from our school and having aloo patty or a chicken patty from our school canteen. But anyway, talking about Delhi, I can talk for hours, and we have a little time. So I'm going to move towards the next story and bring this interesting chapter of a story coming from Afghanistan to India. And that was a trade route. So remember that, guys, when I showed you that trade route of GT Road, I'm talking about the same here. And if you have ever came across a dish called chana, chole, that is what we got it from that particular trade route. And it's a very well-known name in Indian household, which we call it chana or chole. Every kid grew up eating chole chawal or chole something. And still now, it is very, very popular as an outside food, where we eat a lot of chole bhature, chole chawal, chole kulche, without even thinking about it that this major ingredient was never from India. And that's what makes it, or that's how it takes a space in our story here. So if you talk about the Grand Trunk Road, which is also known with various other names, Sadak-e-Azam, Rajshahi Sadak, so on. It's Asia's oldest road and also longest. Some of the dishes I have highlighted in the slide here, naming few dishes like chana masala, which is very popular in the West as well. You can easily see them in the West. When I say chole chawal, I mean rice, which I also tried showing it here. Chawal is a Hindi name for rice. And chole is what we call it, chana, chole. They are all similar. Never get confused about it. The preparation could be different, but they are same. Chana masala, that is very popular in the Western countries. I have personally tasted and witnessed it. Where I'm also highlighting the left hand side, a dish which is on the left bottom is a chole and bhature. Bhature is a bread which is a fermented bread and deep fried. And if you talk about specifically in the North India, it is mostly popular in the breakfast and a lunch. So it's very common to witness a lot of shops in the knocking corner where they are selling chole bhature. And it also gains special space in at least food tour itineraries that one must try while being in North India. And then something which is lost now already, but there are still some places in Delhi that way you can taste them or you can really enjoy them, is a dal badi. Though if you say the badi itself is in existence, but the concoction has been lost. So dal badi, you can name it either one. For me, it is one of the oldest and surviving MRE. MRE is a military term, which we call it meal ready to eat. So in that long trade journey, they invented or they were using it as a staple meal. It is a good protein because lentil contains a protein. And they witnessed or encountered that livestock is not being keeping themselves healthy in that change of weather. So initially they thought it's better to switch to vegetarian and much more, because you have to make sure you feed your livestock, then you feed on them. But it's better to have a food which could help you to survive longer. So dal badi, to describe you what it looks like or what it is, basically it's just a simple lentil cake which is dehydrated completely, in which you take a lentil, soak it in a water, add spices, then make a small cakes and sun dry it. And when you sun dry it, it becomes more like a cake, dehydrated. Right? It's like a stone. So anytime you want to cook a food, you just put it into water and rehydrate. Either add it in the rice and rehydrate it, either way, and it becomes a complete food. And you don't even need to add any spices to it, since at the time of basic preparation, you have added all the spices to it. So that's what makes it a whole food completely. So it became very popular back then, and it still can be eaten some point somewhere, at least in Delhi. But and it is popular in Punjab right now. We still call them Amritsari badi, if just to give you an example, if any of the Indian audience could relate with it, which is Amritsari badi, we know it as, and it is same that I'm talking about. And as I said, that we have to keep on searching the tropics because it's a long queue. But let's come to another one here. This is very interesting topic to learn or talk about. It's a story of Zoroastrian people or Parsi people who landed up in India. Landed up in India at the time when the Muslim invasion was been troubling the country, and they wanted to move out, so they took a refuge in Gujarat. And this Gujarat food culture have influenced their own food, and then completely a third food culture came out as known as Parsi, Irani, Parsi, Zoroastrian food. which is very popular, at least in the central part, Maharashtra. If you talk about Irani cafes are very, very popular in Mumbai specifically. If you ever get to visit Mumbai or or if you are from Mumbai, you know what I'm talking about. They brought a lot of amazing food to our country, including pav culture. Pavs are bun, we call it. The buns, not a burger bun, but a very different kind of bun that cannot be compared with any Western bun, but a very unique ladi pav, and the keema, beri pulao, mutton dhansak, patrani machi, famous Irani chai. These are the few highlights I'm going to talk about. So beri pulao, because Iran was rich with the different berries and they added into a rice. Pulao and biryani are different things. The complete pattern of cooking are different. So never get confused with pulao or biryani. Again, it's a very detailed chapter to talk about, but for a quick reference, they're not same. So it's easy to understand. So they bought a culture of adding different berries into pulao. And trust me, it is worth trying. It is amazing dish. Then we're going to talk about the dhansak. Dhansak is a gravy basically, and then it depends on what meat are you adding. Dhansak is a combination of a pumpkin and the different vegetables and a lentil cooked together, pureed, and then used as a gravy. And then a special dhansak masala to be added in it. This dhansak masala has been influenced by the indigenous Gujarati food and their own pattern of cooking. So, and trust me, it is not something which we can completely claim as Indian, nor Parsi could claim it completely as Parsi food, but it's a unique concoction to try. And just to highlight, Zoroastrian people are the world minority. 150,000 left in the world, and more than 100,000 people live in India. And most, what I heard, is in UK as well. They are majorly in UK. So it's a very, very unique and very restricted, small food culture, but very interesting to witness. Then, and for a quick note, the company, if you guys know Tata or Range Rover, that is owned by a Parsi guy, or Taj Group of Hotels. It's a Parsi company, so it's owned by Tata. Then another one I want to talk about here is a patrani machi, which is must try thing, and it's a pattern of cooking a fish in a leaf, marinated, and leaf is steamed and come out very amazing flavors. So I'm not going in detail, but this is something what we are not used to of cooking. This was not a way we were cooking. So this became a part of our culture. So that's how it takes a space in this particular session. That this is unique, and it's very much now Indian now to talk about, because beside India you can't get this food anywhere else. So this one we are talking about is we are moving towards the next one, which is Odisha. Odisha, if you look at, it's on east coast of India, and it's a state which is still a house for 64 plus tribal people, tribal communities, indigenous tribal communities, and a lot of them are still in their natural habitat and do enjoy their life with the nature, and there's a lot to learn from there. And I recently visited last year, 2019. I was lucky enough to visit that place and learn about that food culture. I was there for quite a time to explore and research about it. And very unique factor which I learned from there, that average intake of that tribal people, average around 12 to 24% of their food. I'm just keeping the numbers very limited. 24% are coming from uncultivated food, uncultivated forest food, which means that that food was never intentionally grown there. It is just what nature gives you. You take it in the same way and cook it in the same way, like as natural as possible. And which means a lot, because in that way that you're not giving any kind of impact on the mother nature. And of course, those food are rich in their own manner. I have just highlighted 3 food here, which is amgili saag. Saag, when I say saag, could be called as any greeny leafy vegetable. So for Indian people, mustard saag, sarson ka saag, which you might have ever heard about. It's a mustard spinach. Spinach can be called as saag. So never get confused when you hear a term saag. Saag could be easily any green leafy vegetable cooked in a different way. That's why we use a prefix and name that what kind of saag it is. So saag is another generic term, and you need to always focus on the prefix. So Gandhari saag, Ambagli saag, Sarson ka saag, these are the common saag you will encounter. Not these one, not at least these two, commonly you will find. These come from that specific region. And around 52 species they have noted in that area, which has been consumed by the tribal people, and they are completely uncultivated food. Tuber culture, tuber eating culture is very, very popular in that region. And they, I don't know how, but they have learned to eat even the bitterest tuber you will talk about or think about and cure it with naturally without adding or removing anything. The food culture is very interesting in terms of the seed banking there. They really, while walking around, going around there, they really carry the seeds and put it in the jungle back, what they're consuming. So that is another food, responsible thing that they do and talk about. There is a seed banking. And tuber, basically, when I say tuber are the structural, most of the people know, but just like, for example, potato can be called as a tuber, or yam could be called as one, but they have a long, huge variety of it. And the good part of that being that, they're not being consumed a lot, but they're fit. The age expectation is pretty different there. And the skin tone, body structure is different. Then what I learned coming back and research more about it, that a big credit can be given to these sags they are consuming there. So this is one of the culture that one need to understand and adapt in their life. The sag is full of iron, zinc, manganese, and so on. Very well, highly nutritious and also healthy. So that what makes it interesting to learn and understand. And this part of uncultivated forest food, this is completely new for at least you can say the urban areas, but that is what they enjoy there, and really respect in a best possible way. So that's how it takes a space in the tribal food culture. Then I'm moving toward the next slide here. It's a very interesting journey of a sambar. It could come as a shock to a lot of people, even from India, that South Indian is not completely Sambar is not completely South Indian, as you think. Sambar is basically a vegetable and a lentil stew or soup, you can say, which is mostly served with a southern Indian dishes like dosa, idli, uttapam, rice. It's one of the staples. And it takes its roots from the Maharashtra. So the connection between Sambar and Maharashtra is the dish called amti. The amti dish is basically a dish which is made with lentil, similar way, lentil and mango, a green mango. As I mentioned earlier that we were using the sourness from the green mango. So this dish took its root and you can say the inspiration. And the sambar was been invented in the kitchen of Tanjavur king, Maratha king basically. Maratha were the kings from Maharashtra. Tanjavur Maratha ruler Sahuji's kitchen. And this dish was been named because Sahuji was one of the Maratha ruler who helped Sahuji to win the battle. And then he was very impressed and he wanted to name something after him. And back then, the ruler used to travel with their chefs. So that's how this amalgamation of amti and the new thing, which with little same flavor with the different ingredients took place, and kings were happy. And then they named after because the victory came through Sambhaji, so they named after as a victory dish and call it Sambar. Sambar is very popular, but if I say you get same sambar everywhere, no. That is our speciality in India. We have our own state spices, and we really like to experiment with them all. So in India, when you travel, you will witness all different kind of sambars. Delhi sambar is completely different than any, as I said earlier. But within the South India, they have different sambar in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala. They all make it different way. They're using kokum, some using tamarind, some using mango powder. So they keep on playing within basic availability of ingredients, but they do all eat sambar very, very prominently. And it's a very, very healthy dish too. What I learned from some journals and papers that idli and sambar has been marked as one of the healthiest dishes for the breakfast. And I hope you can Google that easily. So you can easily adapt, and it's very good for the humid weather, the food basically, or the coming month is the humid in Delhi. So that's what I switched to mostly. And the biryani, the very famous biryani, what we know as, when we talk an Indian food, we talk about biryani. So in here, the biryani came to India, which has been claimed as in a many different way, but the Kerala could be easily given the tag who bought biryani to India from its Gulf guest, which we call later on Mapila. Mapila in Malayalam is a native language of Kerala. Mapila means a son-in-law, a community which came from the waters to India, from the Middle East. And they introduced this dish to us, and they were brother-in-law, or they're son-in-law to us. So it became a from the Mapila community. So if you really go back in the history and learn about it, Mapila community or the Gulf, in the Gulf, they were making rice and meat together. And it was new for us here. So when they started making the meat, they used to use a full animal. So if you still visit ever Kerala, you can also encounter the full meat, basically full animal, stuffed with the rice and cooked with the rice, which we also call it musallam, a cuisine, musallam cuisine, in which they are cooking the whole animal together mixed with the rice. So there is a biryani, Mapila biryani, originally a whole chicken stuffed with rice and spices cooked together. And back then they were using camel. Inside the camel they were using goat. Inside the goat they were stuffing with the chicken or duck. Then inside the duck they were stuffing with the chicken. Inside the chicken they were stuffing with quail. Inside the quail they were stuffing with eggs. And then whole thing goes in the rice. So of course it's a party dish. We're not talking that they do it every day. But still some of the food can be seen here in India on the festivals in that region. They still cook a whole animal as a goat or a chicken in a biryani. Since it's a spice land, easily, there are many other food cultures also came in, either talking about the Portuguese, Arabs, Syrian, French, Jewish. But if I say that the biryani, original Mapila biryani is still kept intact, being that it was just two cultures, Arab and in Kerala cuisine, amalgamation called as Mapila biryani. You will also encounter some nut usage in that biryani, because if you see that usually we don't put nuts beside in Lucknow, we don't put much nuts in biryani, or we add more nuts to pulao, not biryani. So in Mapila biryani you will encounter some nuts as well, because that's how the Arabs got in here in that route. So that's one thing we are talking about, and Kerala and biryani connection. And it's still very unique and small community. One must encounter when visiting, or one must visit if you ever get a chance to a Mapila community house to feast on some amazing food. And that's where I think I'm gonna open the podium for the question answers. As what you see that I have ended up with saying anyone can cook, but only fearless can be great. So I took this quote from a movie, Ratatouille, in this lockdown time or in this home time, one must see this movie. A very interesting movie where a mouse teaches how to cook to a man, and which proves Gustave's story that anyone can cook, but only failures can be great. So that was a small presentation from my side. I really thank you all for allowing me this opportunity and time to listen my stories here. And I guess, Indrajit, we can open. And I also thank all the team here, Indrajit, who has been coordinating with me, Lavleen, Saurabh, Ishri. I can't take all the names, but these are the names which I can instantly say. So Indrajit, can we open it for the question answers?
Yes, sure. Yeah, of course. Right now, I don't have any question, but let's wait for maybe 1 minute, so we can have these questions appearing on the screen.
Yep.
So yeah, we have the first question. It's from Naresh Kumar. He says, "Yes, Mr. Goyal, I've seen this movie. Uh, the question is, what and how much is the role of smell, fragrance in food? How important is the role of smell or fragrance in food?"
No, it is very important role of smell in, because uh, if I say I really will invite you someday, things go normal to my food tour. But before we put anything on our mouth, we have receptors. So I call it a fourth sense of eating, in which first you look at the food. Second is you touch at the food. That is it soft enough that you will chew it. Third, you smell it. And somehow our brain membranes are good enough to understand how the food, because we have identified that if it's too sour, it is not good for you. It smells. If it's too fragrant, some could be hiding there. So our brains are a very well mechanism to understand before even we eat the food. And at some point, that, to be honest, I can guarantee that I have met the people who can smell and tell that there is less salt in the food or less spice in the food. So I can't say that same palates we got in the tongue, we have it in the nose, but most of the nostril work similar way to our palates. So it is very important that food should smell of its own, and if it's any foul smell, one can imagine, of course. Next.
Thank you. We don't have any question right now. So yeah, here we have the question. He says, "Thank you so much for nice presentation. Post-COVID, what are the changes you can see in a food tour?"
Food scene, food scenario?
Yeah, food tour. Post-COVID, what are the changes you can see in food tour?
What are the changes I see in the food tours?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm a little more confident about my product, particularly post-COVID, because I think at this point, world have realized that there is something in our food. If we talk about most of the immunity boosters the world is taking as a supplement, we have just been enjoying it here as a food, regular food. And it is, if you recovery rate of India, if you look at on the COVID, is much higher than any other country so far.
So you do you see any change in the way of street food tour is conducted? That is the thing. I mean, after COVID.
I think the pressure we were trying, because we were closely working with the industry to upgrade the visual and hygiene standards. Earlier, if you have noticed that we were giving gloves, we were giving masks, we were giving aprons, even before COVID, without expecting the COVID. I think it will make our job much easier to implement those things. So I rest assured, it's going to be much more safer than earlier. And as far as the food content and quality is there are going to be no changes. It's going to be remain intact. As far as the visual and the serving part is concerned, I expect some changes going to be there. So at this point, it's going to be a speculative answer, whatever I give you. But I guess we already have a plan. We already have a plan to conduct some sessions for our vendors with whom we are working in the food tours. So you rest assured, you get the bookings. We make sure that you get more than your expectations.
All right. So there's another question. It says, was India a vegetarian nation before the invaders or foreign travelers came in?
No. If you really go back in history, even there are a lot of gray areas which were never been highlighted. But of course, we were being vegetarian by choice, not by the force, because what we learned in country that our weather, we are the country which is the 5 weathers. And keeping yourself healthy was one major component. And then again, taking care of your animals to be healthy became another. So it was much easier to switch to the vegetarian part, which came as an education of religion to us, than actually switching, keep on eating the bad meat and then getting sick of it. Because I'm sure you understand that even in the change of weather, religiously, we skip meat in terms of when we say uh, Navratras are there, which are the holy week of Indian or Hindu festival. Basically, it's just a change of weather. So most of the things are scientific in India, even in the form of religion, and very well been taught to us in that way. So
So
we were
actually, no, the question was that before the Islamist, invaders came to India, were Indians, the indigenous Indians, having non-vegetarian food before
yeah,
that?
yeah, of course, 100%, 100%, 100%.
Okay. So here is another question. It says, is there any official national dish of India?
In the very first slide, I say that I think we should never ever put one, because uh, such a beautiful, we are not one single flower, we are a bouquet. So I think we always try to sell as a bouquet, not as a flower. Uh, but I could say that our national, instead of a dish, I could say national spice could be a turmeric. Because most of the cuisine across India, you will witness that turmeric. Even the tribal zone, I found that remote area where I have to trek for a half day to reach that market, and I found the turmeric there. So rather than a dish, I would say the spice could be called as India, and we let world to come our country and explore in one country, many cultures. So I would never want one particular dish to be promoted or highlighted.
Yeah. So next question is from Chirag Bhatia. It says, Indian food history without kebab is incomplete. Can you explain about origination of galoti kebab?
See, very well known. I recently did one. Galauti kebab is a dish which was invented for one Maharaja, Nawab rather, I'll say Maharaja. Lucknow is the city which gained its title for that Galauti kebab. So Nawab, we all know, but I still explain. Nawab means a rich enough guy who really live his life lavishly. That what happened with those guys too. Unfortunately, there was no dental service back then who can get their teeth back, and Nawabs are also known as a biggest foodie. So one of the Nawab lost his teeth while enjoying his life and still was craving for the meat, and that's where the regular chefs came in, and he need to make sure his master get to taste the meat as he used to love a lot. So this dish happened. Galauti kebab is particularly a concoction of multiple spices, like 50 plus spices if you really go by the history, plus a unique marination of papaya to break the protein so that it's easy. You don't even have to chew it. You just need to, swallow it, or you just enjoy the flavors on your tongue, and it goes easily. So that's one history. And there are a lot many different kebabs you can talk about, but I guess with the time restriction, this Galauti kebab added a little touch to it. So next question, Indrajit.
Yeah, the next question is from Manish Gandhi. He says, Hi Rajeev, thanks for food journey to India. Today we have a trend of blending the veg and non-veg items like mutton saag. Do you think it is okay to go for this kind of experiments, since both these food items are high on protein, plus we use desi ghee a lot in our food habits?
So first of all, I must tell everyone here, very quick note, desi ghee is among one of the healthiest lubricant to eat. Compared to any refined food, we should avoid all kind of refined food. Refined either in terms of oil, either in terms of maida, either in terms of, if you're not doing it right, I'm just saying that it's not that you should stop eating, but if you go by the functionality of the body is supposed to refine the food within. When you intake the food which is already refined, there is not much to extract from it. And secondly, the ghee, any lubricant, ghee or butter, anything which melts on your palm. Our body temperature is 37 degrees. any lubricant which melts on your palm is good for you because it will not stuck in your body. Your body temperature will melt it and digest it. So ghee is, if you take a ghee and put it in your palm, if it's little frozen, you will find that within a minute or few, it will start melting. So ghee is good as a lube. Mixing mutton and saag, no problem at all.
Veg and non-veg, yeah.
Veg and non-veg is not at all a problem. Not at all a problem. They share a complete different protein structure. So if you really, they're a different protein structure. The plant and animal have two different protein structure, and excess of anything is bad. So that answer is there.
Okay. So we move to the next question. It is from Vipin Nayal. It says, "Thank you, Rajeev ji, for nice presentation on your culinary journey. There we see a trend or influx of food tourism before COVID-19. What is your viewpoint in if this will have same increase, especially considering the COVID-19 impact?" So basically, he's asking about the trend for food tourism. Will it increase after COVID-19 or will it decrease after COVID-19?
I guess it will increase anyway. We as a human never leaving behind. See, we would have stuck to one island only if we have a sense of exploring, trying. And as soon as we come back, for what you understand as a food tourism for me is a very different. When you are traveling, you are at least eating 3 times a day in that travel journey. So for me, the food tourism already started the moment he landed in country. And definitely speciality tours will increase because people want to learn now. At least the world want to